We good?
Go, Frank.
Hi, my name is Frank Rivera with Team William and Mary. So today we're going to show you some of the visualizations we made with the analytics made available to us. So some of the key points that we've discovered when looking at communities and COVID-19 is that certain demographic groups in the Commonwealth have exhibited a disproportionate rate of infection. And based off the data we've analyzed, we've been able to determine that racial groups exhibit high infection rates and that the number of people per household shows correlation with the number of COVID-19 infection cases. So by focusing on aids such as healthcare clinics, flu shot clinics, and education in these communities, we can mitigate the risk to the Commonwealth at large by mitigating the risk to these communities first. And as an example, this visualization here shows the number of cases and hospitalization by area. And as you'll note in the Northern Virginia, we see the highest case count and death count and hospitalization rate. And then down in the Chesapeake area in the Southeast, we also see extremely high rates compared to the rest of Virginia. So here, as we see separated by those hot points separated by ethnicity and race, in the North, we see that although Latinos are approximately 16% of the population, they account for more than 50% of those cases in that area. And while the Black population is 44% of the Southeast, they represent a more than 50% caseload in that area. So like we spoke about, we obviously see the disproportionate rate by ethnicity and race. And as we move forward into the cases, we see that in Nova, a frighteningly high number of Latino cases. And in Hampton Roads, we see that the Black community shoulders a large load of those cases. And even following through, the Latino cases far outpace any other region in Virginia, in Fairfax, alarmingly. And then again, as we see the hospitalization, those cases follow through with the Latino community. We're seeing a large amount of hospitalizations there as well. And the Black community in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads also seeing an uptick in hospitalizations, disproportionate, again, to the amount of people in those communities. And then also of a significant note, we see that in those communities, the Latino cases who were infected and hospitalized, the death rates are low. And again, with the Black community in Nova, their death rate is pretty linear to their relationship with the cases. But in the case of the white community, we see that in Nova, the deaths far exceed by percentage the population who's actually getting sick. And one of the points that we realized is that in Northern Virginia, the life expectancy is very high for white males, on average exceeding 81 years old. And we're not necessarily sure that this is a correlation, but it is of note, seeing how we see the death rates disproportional to the community.
Leading us to think that perhaps because folks are older, white men are older in Virginia, they are more susceptible to deaths once they catch COVID.
Here we're looking at some trends by race. Specifically now we're looking at Hampton Roads, think the Virginia Beach area. We can see the disproportionately affected Black community is trending still at a frightening upward slope. And we can see during each phase opening that it's getting worse and worse. Phase 3, there's this huge shift in the slope in a positive direction. If we take a look at the Nova area, Fairfax, Arlington, etc., we can see that it's a lot more linear despite going through phase changes and holidays. However, the Latino rate is still frighteningly high. We understand with these graphs, we should have normalized possibly by the 100,000. Moving forward, that is something we would look to do in the future. And our last slide, we wanted to see the underlying causes, drilling into Fairfax, because we can see there's the 2.835 average people in a household. We wanted to see, is that significant here? And what we can see is among people in poverty, there's about 8%, this is the left-hand side, we're looking at the donut, about 8% of people live alone. If you look in the bottom right-hand side, that's now Hispanic people in Fairfax. About 2% live alone, looking at that donut. So what this tells us is Hispanic people are not living alone as much, so household size is probably a very significant variable that needs further exploration.
Thank you, everyone, and go Tribe.